All right, everyone, we're ready to get started here. Thank you so much for joining us. And I think we'll start with a round of applause for the audience. Please give yourself a round of applause. Thank you for showing up. My name is Sam Huntington. I run a brand called Hill Climbers. We're focused on content and events that encourage networking among cyclists. And I've got a very important gentleman right here to do the intro. It takes a village to do stuff like this. And my friend here has kind of created the village. So, Doug.
Welcome to the Meteor. I'm one of the founders of the Meteor, and pleased to be a part of Hill Climbers. Sam and I, did we meet on a ride, maybe? Something like that?
The patio, you know.
Yeah, on the patio or something. We're thrilled to be hosting, is it the second podcast here?
The second one here. Yeah.
Second one here, yes. And being hoping to be a vital part of the cycling community here, which has been absolutely lovely and wonderful. Hill Climbers playing a great role. We love that this place can be like a canvas that, y'all can come paint whatever beautiful picture you want. And we love connecting the pieces that cycling and active lifestyle and just the lovely city of Austin and the people here bring together.
And by the way, just a plug for the podcast, I interviewed Doug for a two-part series. The first is about Intelligentsia Coffee, which he founded in '95. That was the last business he sold. And the second part is about the Meteor, founding of the Meteor, and some of the growth. Second introduction is from John Davison here from startuplandia.io. John is like the Medici family of my podcast here. He's been the first sponsor, first patron, and I wanted John to introduce himself to you all as well.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Doug. Thanks for hosting us. I met Hill Climbers last year. I came to Austin last May. Somebody I was talking to, I told them my interest. They're like, you got to go to Meteor and you have to look up Hill Climbers. And I think I came to an event in November or December. I was like, sweet, this is exactly what I want in my life in this moment. I'm a product engineer and a founder. I help entrepreneurs. In the last 4 years, a very small team of mine have served about 30,000 hours to the 0 to 1 stage of engineering. So like, if you need any help with that stuff, please let me know. I'm into kettlebells, Surleys, and steel bikes. And there's a huge chance we're going to do like either a Bordeaux or Tuscany adventure trip next summer via the Red Fridge. So in any capacity, if I can help you, please let me know. And by Medici's, he means we'll choke you with gold, which I cannot do.
I was also going to say beer. John has sponsored some beer tickets, so go see him after the show, and he will give those out. I wanted to do quick thank yous. Thank you to the Meteor, obviously. Elliott here has been instrumental in setting up all of the video equipment, which is like, as we learned, a Herculean task. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
And then John, and then once again, the audience. Thank all you guys. And we still have people coming in, which is great. Quick housekeeping before we get this rolling. We have got some trivia for after the show, so stick around. We're going to have some, I think, people's endurance giveaways. Hopefully you know a thing or two about bike stuff. We do a Thursday group ride. Steven and I have been co-hosting. It leaves 6:45 a.m. on Thursday morning. We ride some hills. Come check us out. Next couple episodes are Biotech Bikers, which is a similar networking group, but for international biotech and pharma. So I had a really interesting conversation with the founder of that, who also does T-cell research and is working on a cure for pancreatic cancer. So it's like off the beaten path, not something I've talked about that much. So that's really cool. And then our last event was at the Red Fridge Society with Rob Taylor. We have yet to publish that show. He's very impressive serial entrepreneur. He's now a VC, both sides of the table, great perspective. The last is we are still looking for sponsors. So if anyone has any ideas for that, ideally it would be a company that our community could help grow kind of from a network perspective. So without further ado, attention on these three gentlemen, Chris Tolley, Elliott Teller, and Chaz Lacaillade. I think, guys, if you could maybe just do quick intros about yourselves, that would be a great way to set this off.
By the way, I'm coming back from a road race. I just raced like 75 miles, and I just ate a wonderful cheeseburger. So my blood sugar is like slowly coming back. So it might be a little foggy in the beginning. But My name is Chris Tolley. I've been riding bikes since I was 12. Started riding BMX, tore both my ACLs, started riding road bikes, still ride BMX all the time. It's the greatest form of biking. And I also run the Driveway Series, which is America's largest weekly bike race right here in Austin. So 4 miles from downtown.
And Tolley's a bit of an influencer too, is what we've heard. So he didn't mention that.
I'll talk about my disdain for that title and like even being recognized as one.
Is why we're here.
Yes. But yes.
Yeah, my name's Elliott Teller. Been in Austin for 8 years. I'm actually a COVID rider, so you guys can give me some shit for that. But basically, right out of college, was a cinematographer. Really loved working in the film industry. Sold my soul to tech sales. Did that for 7 years, and then basically the summer of 23 decided to like go ahead and go for it and send it and try to start a business.
Nice.
And now we're here. So literally, my wife, she's back there, but a lot of people don't know this. That summer, we were jokingly about like we didn't have any responsibility, and then I put my 2 weeks in on a Thursday. Told the team Friday. Saturday, we found out we're having our little boy. Yeah, there was really like no going back. And his first birthday is tomorrow, so yeah, we jokingly we did the marathon recently. Well, he did the 5K with us, and I was like, we're going to Kalahari for his birthday. I was like, we should have did like the Disney thing when he crossed the finish line. They said we're going to Kalahari for the celebration. So maybe next year we'll get the sponsorship. But so yeah, I traveled all over Asia, China specifically, sourcing everything. So I'm really, really proud of what's been made. And I think more and more, we're kind of like a word of mouth business right now. The general feedback right now has just been really, really supportive. They really see the quality and the attention to detail. So we've got lots of stuff back here. If you guys want to touch and feel stuff also after the show, just come and find me. So.
And my name's Chaz Lacaillade. I'm a talent agent. I moved here from Los Angeles in 2021. Found out that Sam, somebody I knew kind of vaguely in Los Angeles, lived in Austin as well. And not only lived in Austin, but just like a few blocks from me. And he said he was really into cycling. And I was like, oh, how hard could that be? You know, I'll go on a ride with you. And then he kind of just...
Westlake Hills, baby, was the first one. Yeah.
And you could hear me gasping for air like a mile away. But as soon as I got to the top of this like summit, I call it a summit. It's probably a dramatic description. I was like, well, I just want to do this again and again until it's less, so it becomes incrementally less hard, so I can feel myself, moving up the scale. And so basically, I just kept coming back for that feeling, and I fell in love with cycling and the endurance community. And Sam invited me to be here today.
And Chaz started a agency called Bottle Rocket.
Yeah, my firm. So I worked at a Hollywood talent agency called ICM, which is in the motion picture department there for years. And I noticed that all the biggest agents had something in common. That was like they discovered a niche. So one of the most prominent representatives at the firm represented SNL, Saturday Night Live comedians, and another one represented British actresses. And they just basically developed the category, and then they focused on it and grew with it as the actors or talent that they represented became more well known and regarded. And so this is 2012. I was just kind of laying awake, just thinking, what's the white space for me? Everything, you always think that everything's been done when you're in that position. You're like, what musician or what field of music or acting or comedy or performance hasn't been established? And YouTube was kind of becoming a little bit more and more prominent. And I thought, well, why don't I represent these YouTube creators? Because they all seem to have dedicated audiences that they have a direct rapport with. And I said, I'm going to apply traditional talent management to YouTube. And literally every last one of my peers laughed in my face. And most of them said I was absolute fool to my face, which that you're on something. Yeah. or you're either really onto something or really making a big mistake. But fortunately, I launched my company, and then in November of last year, we were acquired. And now I work at like one of the biggest talent management firms in the world as it pertains to digital talent. It's called Night Media. And we represent like the biggest Twitch streamers and YouTube creators in the world. And we're based out of LA. And but I get to still live in Austin. So it's a good deal.
Yeah, and that was a relatively recent transaction, so big congratulations
Thank you.
to Chaz. Yeah. So my friend Steven over here made this fantastic outline for questioning, and the first segment is around building a personal and corporate brand. And Mr. Tolley, we can start with you.
Let's go for it.
You mentioned growing up with BMX, you got into racing and made a name for yourself, racing bikes, mostly crits. How has the BMX influence that you've had helped or hindered you in building an online persona and working with brands?
BMXers in general, we're all like a little bit like psychotic, I would think. And so there's like nothing I wouldn't do that like a brand like wanted me to. And I've always like tried to like integrate BMX into like whatever sort of like bike brand I'm riding with. Cause like there's a ton of like pro cyclists out there or like, crit racers, but like I'm the only one that I know that's doing BMX as well. So it's like trying to like integrate those two things together, I think is like the only way to like stand out. And so
and it sounds like that, Chaz was just talking about differentiating. It sounds like that's your special sauce. That's what you're doing differently.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, like relative to like other people. And like, I don't know. I think it's just the attitude of like, I got into like road cycling and like racing from injuries. And I also started at like 25. So I knew like, I'm not going to the world tour. Like, so everything was kind of like, it was just for fun. And so like,
right.
I wanted to make sure that came across. Like, it was never like, oh yeah, Chris is going for that pro contract. It's like, no, I am just here for fun. This is like an adrenaline rush. And it's like, and like the content, all that sort of stuff like did well. And so I was like, oh, it's like, maybe there's something here. But yeah, there's always that sort of attitude of just like having fun with it and and bringing in BMX. And so it's like, oh yeah, it's like kid is like not serious, but he's like also racing people that like do this for a job. So it's like, what is going on here? And so I'll always just kind of like confusing them, I think.
I think that's a great way.
And there's no plan here, by the way. Like, there's never been a plan. I've never thought about, because I've like also like sold my soul to tech sales. I don't know how I'm still in it, but we're still here. I'm still throwing the biggest weekly bike race. But so there's always like that. So I was like, I could do whatever I want. And, yeah, it's fun.
Well, thank you for sharing your secret sauce.
Oh, yeah.
Not having a plan.
Yeah, no plan.
That's awesome. Next one is for Chaz. You mentioned you got into, endurance recently within the last few years. Can you tell us anything about the work that you've done in the kind of endurance space and any likes, dislikes, pros, cons?
When I got into it, like the swimming, running, and cycling world, I was so excited to kind of know, who the big movers and shakers are, what they're doing, why they're impressive, what it is that they accomplish, their personal stories. And one of the things that distinguishes the endurance world, I think, is that the people who are really prominent, it's not uncommon for these people to have really interesting personal journeys where they overcame serious hardship and they kind of needed the world of endurance or one of the sports or one of the pursuits to save their lives. In some cases, again, I'm defaulting to dramatic language. I don't know why, but like they feel these, it seemed like whatever it was, whether it was triathlon or cycling, these people are very intense. And if that intensity and focus wasn't applied to this healthy outlet, then it would potentially be self-destructive. And in many cases it was, and they had that moment of realization where they didn't want to go down the dark path and they wanted to, elevate their life. And so I found that really compelling. And, who doesn't find that compelling? Peter Guber once said, story isn't the icing on the cake, it is the cake. And so my job is to sell cakes. So if I have a really good story, a human story that's relatable in this era of like, AI driven communication, then that's that's novel, right? So that's what I liked.
Yeah. First question is, are there examples of that kind of influencer that you represent?
There are. I mean, a lot of.
Or second was going to be who can you call out that is interesting to follow?
The apex example is somebody that I love. Rich Roll, I think, is like the quintessential.
Who I got to meet this week at South by.
I know,
pretty cool.
I have seen him on the sidewalk twice.
Yeah,
but I've read his book twice and listened to it while I'm running a marathon. But like, it's called Finding Ultra. Highly recommend the Rick Roll autobiography, Finding Ultra. But then the downside, that's the upside. right? These incredibly compelling personal journeys and stories and personalities. Downside is it's not a lot of money in endurance sports. And if you're not like the face of swimming or the face of, but if you're not Lance Armstrong, like things fall off real quick monetarily. So,
all right, guys, see you later. We're wrapping up the show, you know.
No dough to be found.
Yeah.
Like, so like you really have to, like, if you're not at the top, you have to really spin a story that's like ultra compelling, because from my experience, from my observations, brands and money and capital tend to coagulate and concentrate around the top, swimmer, runner, ultra,
In all sports, yeah.
right? But in like some sports, like
More money goes around with
an average
broadcast
wide
rights.
receiver in the NFL is getting paid 7 figures a year.
Yeah.
Did you want to chime in before?
Oh, I was gonna say there's a local one, Mitch Ammons, who like was like a drug addict for like a long time, and now he's like he won the Austin half marathon.
Right.
I
And
think
so
Olympic trials. Like,
yeah, I mean it's like intense. Yeah, and I was just like, I don't run. I can't run. My knees are totally shot. But I was like, oh, I'm gonna follow this because it was like very compelling. And I was like, holy shit, like that's where he came from, and now he's like, is he gonna get to the Olympics? And I was like, actually invested. And so. And yeah, I'm trying to think of like other stories like that, but like that's one that like springs
if you're
to
doing
mind.
endurance, you're a broken soul to some degree. We've all got it in us a little bit. I mean, let's be serious.
I'm riding 5 hours like in college for like no reason. It's just like you have to be a little psychotic to do that.
Everybody here is familiar with the term pain cave, and it's like when you're like in the depths of despair, and to seek that out is a certain kind of personality.
What are you running from?
All right, we're on Elliott next. So you launched People's Endurance when? How long ago?
So technically the site's been live for like 45-ish days, but
All right.
we like during Black Friday we just like shot it up real quick and then brought it back down, mainly to like test the systems and like software. So wanted to make sure that was like limited, because obviously as like more people start to find out, those problems that are inevitable are going to get magnified. So we flipped the site on. I don't even remember, like was it 2 weeks ago or a week ago, something like that. So yeah, it's been really good. And then people hit me up, so they've been coming to the house, so having to like a lot of like in-home shopping.
Yeah, in-home shopping.
Yeah,
right.
they're like, I joke, there's like no champagne in the fridge, but we like go in the garage and there's like just whatever the hell's in the fridge. So we give them the full like Louis Vuitton experience. And
well, so speaking of, I've known Elliott now only for a few months, but we spent a lot of time together. It's been great to get to know Elliott, and one of the reasons is, and once again, he's set up all the camera work, everything. You're very particular about design, aesthetic, brand, and you have a strategy that goes deep, a long timeline. So can you share with the audience just what the brand identity is, and start there?
Kind of to Tolley's point, don't have everything figured out either. So like it looks calculated, but there's definitely some method to the madness. But I would say like, when I think about that question really holistically, there's something that's like most brands right now, I feel like you kind of have to like be the brand instead of just be yourself, which I don't know that I really like personally. So I like the fact that I am an individual, and like I don't like being put in a box per se. And so the brand will be the brand, but the way I think about clothes is like those are accessories to who you are. And so like I'm never going to be somebody that's just wearing a bunch of logos just to wear logos. So it's kind of like what you do with the clothes. And so that's what I think about when I think about like the brand itself, is like give people space to be themselves. And I think also when I think about influencers and things, like let them run kind of wild. Like, there's probably going to be some repercussions to that.
We'll get to that later. We'll get to that later in the panel.
People's? Why do you call People's?
Well, yeah, so it's kind of, I mean, there's a lot of different reasons. I want to actually give somebody a shout out. Harold, he's one of my really, really close friends. We met on a film set. Wow, he's got his hand up back there.
Harold.
Yeah, Harold.
So,
We love Harold.
yeah, Harold is like one of the tastiest people I've ever met in my life. His sense of style like has rubbed off on me a lot. And so he's actually got his own brand too, local in town, different category, but we were actually working together in the beginning trying to figure out, what can we call it, right? And so we brainstormed together, and we were talking about like what we wanted to do is like give people another outlet to ultimately like, start to make endurance sports more accessible, but not sacrifice on quality. And so one of the things I really like about the Volkswagens and the Volvos, there's like quality, but they're for the people. So that's kind of really where the name stems from, is just thinking about others and trying to make the best quality products in the market that we can. And then the community stuff can happen later. But definitely don't want to like build community and start to sell like shit products. So trying to do the reverse of that. So
yeah, well, that's a great transition for the next segment, which is keeping it real. That's what we're going to talk about. So, Mr. Tolley, you're pretty unfiltered when it comes to your content and how you go about publishing stuff and representing yourself. Have you ever felt pressure to adjust your content by sponsors?
Yes. And I said no.
All right.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's like, again, to the point of like, I don't know, I don't want this to sound arrogant, but it's like, this is all for fun. And so if someone's telling me like not to be me, it's like, I don't care what it is. I'm not going to do it. Like, I'm not going to like, oh yeah, tone that part down. I'm like, no, I'm actually going to do the opposite now and go hard into this. And it's like, if you don't care, it's like, I don't care. It's like, take your check. I don't care. And so, yeah, I felt that pressure. And then I'm like, okay, this is not a brand that like works for me. Cause it's like, that's not who I am. And I think like that, I don't know. It's like, so people, influencers, all these people jump around brands so often. And I know it's like, it's because of a paycheck, which like I get, like everyone's trying to make money, but like at the same time, I respect people more for like just being themselves and like staying with the brand. And I'll be like, oh yeah, it's like, well, they offered me more money, so I went. I'm like, I don't know.
Have you found that's been kind of a whittling and helped you pull out the relationships that aren't going to work and have some stick with that?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's, if people, I don't know, see what I'm doing and they like it and they like know how I operate. And then it's like, you could hit up a lot and it's like, how do you filter that? How do you find like the best one? And that's like one of the mechanisms I use to filter is like, it's like no edits is what I say. It's just like, well, this is what I'm giving you. Like, I'm not taking anything out. Like, that's it. And I don't know. I like that level of like creative control. I forget the director that gave like a really good speech. What was it? The Brutalist? I forget the guy that directed The Brutalist, but that was like in his speech. He's like, directors have final cut. And I'm like, exactly.
Nice.
It's just like, don't compromise. Like, do what you're going to do. But
yeah.
That's me.
Can you shout out some of your sponsors, like who you're working with currently, or?
Trek, a bike rack sponsor that is new to me this year is Saris, and like they've never asked me to change anything. And like sometimes I'm like, oh, this is pushing it a little far. Like it's like 420.69 is in there, and I'm just like, I'm like lying outright, like, oh, they said I pay for my gas. I'm like, they didn't, but I'm like just gonna put that in there because it's funny, and like, and they don't care, and they get that it works. Like I got some really dumb stuff planned for them as well, and like I know they're gonna be down, and so yeah, it's like great. It's like you never asked me to change anything. Like they like who I am, and yeah, so that's what they
works for you.
Yeah.
So Chaz, you're up. How does that sound on the talent agent side?
It sounds unlucrative.
There we go.
And I'm into lucrative because the wheels need to turn, right? So I'm my approach is different brands are looking for different things. Some brands are completely flexible and they are interested in turning over the reins to somebody who they think has a really original voice, like a really original voice and really original style, and that sometimes works. And then there's brands who just have a lot to lose if they get perceived in a way that is damaging to them, and that's a risk, right? And then the higher up you go, like Fortune 500, Fortune 100, Fortune 50, then it starts getting Fortune 10. That you're like, they're just not.
Stakes are high.
The stakes are very high.
Yeah.
And so is the reward if it works and they keep coming back to you. And I always say the best business is repeat business because
Adidas and Kanye come to mind as like
little
too close to the sun.
It's destructive for all parties.
Yeah.
And so like I am into like creation and I want to sustain and maintain. So that means like, okay, look, if you did choose my client, or when I presented my client to you, you're receptive, and we built and we presented you with the concept, and you approved the concept. So at that point, there's not a lot of like, they've already approved. So when you hit publish, everything's pretty safe.
Right.
Now at that, and like my clients are generally happy to go down that path. But then I'd say like there are points to Chris's, there can be instances, to Chris's point, where a brand didn't really choose you they knew they needed to be somewhere that was hot and active, and you like looked like the best representation of that moment.
Yeah.
And then that's where things get a little dicey, because it's like, oh, I'm talking to some, account executive.
They don't know what they're buying.
Who's never watched one of your videos, Chris. Like, they're like, oh, they just looked at the profile, looked at the impressions, looked at the views, and like just a few thumbnails and said, okay, that guy. And then I made a deal with him. And then all of a sudden, after the ink dries, we're discovering that you actually don't like my client at all, but we're not going to change horses in midstream. And this is totally uncomfortable.
Right.
And then that's why I have a job, frankly,
Right.
Because if it was easy, I wouldn't have a job.
And by the way, does most of your business development come from brands reaching out to your talent? Like how does...
I'd say it's like almost 50-50.
Okay. So the other 50% is you and your talent
Pitching.
pitch the brand.
Yeah. Pitching. And so then I have to make sure everybody's happy.
All right, Elliott, next one's for you. You have a brand new brand, baby brand, 45 days young. You've told me a little bit about some of the challenges with separating yourself, Elliott Teller, from the brand, and how to have enough of people's that's you, Elliott, because that's authentic, but not have yourself entirely like locked in with the brand. What's your strategy from here on out?
Still figuring that out.
Yeah.
I would say like one thing that a lot of people haven't seen yet, I guess, who got the email with the YouTube link?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a terabyte of that. So I can show a lot more of that, and without speaking too much and like secrecy, basically like documented the entire process, making everything in Asia. And so I have like really something I feel like is really cool and interesting, but there's also this fear that, to his point, that it's like too close to the brand, and I want the brand to just like a kid. Like I want it to survive on its own without me.
Jewish thing.
So I don't want it to like become all about like the story and the process, but at the same time, I think it'll help people appreciate like the links that were gone, because I can't stress enough, this is not like me just buying a kit and like throwing a logo on it and trying to like, pretend like I'm designing and making clothes. It's the exact opposite of that. Like a lot of the fabrics and things, you'll hear me joke, I like smoked a lot of Chinese cigarettes and drank a lot of beer, and they call it Baiju, which is like basically their version of moonshine. It's a rice wine, not sake. Dude, this stuff is lethal. All types of stuff that would normally not be on the tables here, but they're very community focused. And the reality of it is like the apparel industry is like in their world, it's semi blue collar. So if you're not smoking cigs and eating what's on the table, they're not going to do business with you, like point blank. So it was a blast. There's a lot of that, but to this point, I'm a little bit nervous of like how much to kind of wheel it back and start showing stuff. But yeah, I think like overarching strategy is just helping people understand like the general like quality of the products, and then the overarching kind of umbrella I would consider like the vibe of the company. And then little by little, I'll start to be a little bit more proactive, like sprinkling things that make sense to kind of like build a collage, I guess would be the best way to think about it.
Have you thought about your first influencer campaigns and how that would help you kind of take the brand in a different direction besides just Elliott Teller?
Yeah. So I'm working on something that I wouldn't even consider a traditional influencer campaign. It's more about offering something that is a solution to another gap that I see when you think about who is capable of influencing. At the end of the day, it's like, can you get money back in the business? Like when you're looking at the numbers, because the wheels got to spin. So like, I'm a sales guy. So like, yes, you have influence. Yes, there's like awareness factor, right? Which is a part of the equation. It's marketing, right? Without the awareness, then people may never find you. But that's also really hard to understand who is generating what awareness. We're working on something I feel like is really unique. And to share a little bit, we're thinking about calling it Open Grid. And what Open Grid could be is basically an opportunity for athletes who may have one or two sponsorships, but they don't have someone supplying them with apparel. We can be their first billboard. And the goal with that would be to help create that snowball effect for them to earn more potential sponsorship.
Billboard meaning
yeah, People's would be essentially like your billboard, and then you can put your sponsors on it. So that's something that we're playing with. It's in its early stages as an idea and a conception, but there's going to be hurdles with that on the legal side, because some brands, they may not know who we are yet. So there's going to be some hoops. So if we do see that to fruition, it's going to be a very small select group. But
And how is that different than just having a kit maker put logos on Giordano kit? Like,
yes, I mean, technically, people could take the idea for sure.
but how's it different is what I'm asking.
Well, I think like one, I don't know the Giordano. Like if you look at their Instagram page, they're not making like insane content. So like obviously coming from a cinematography background and having a lot of other friends that are in the same field, that would be a unique advantage. And then I think just the creative taste and like the ability to understand like how does like
Great answer.
stories work. Because I think a lot of people that just spray and pray with the camera. They're not thinking about like what is the flow of like how a story operates. And like I think all three of us up here, you included, like really have probably like a deep appreciation for movies. And like when you watch a film, you can quickly tell, like, oh, dude, this is like terrible. Like, why am I watching this? Or like, why is everyone obsessed with this guy? Like, he literally just rinsed and repeated like XYZ movie from 15, 20 years ago. So like being able to understand like where are you taking somebody and the storyline.
Hero's journey, is that what it's called?
Correct. Right. Yes, exactly. And then like actually understanding hero's journey and like using it's a tool to make something creative. But yeah, I mean, that would effectively be like the difference maker is our ability to like spend time with those individuals and echo whatever going on.
Another good transition. So the next segment is controversy and challenges. And Chris, we're gonna start with you.
Love that.
Can you share some horror stories about things that have gone wrong with sponsors?
No.
Like
when I saw this question, I was like, oh, this is a good one. Yeah. I was racing Unbound. It was like a big old gravel race, 2022. I was doing the 100-mile one. Everyone knows. I mean, well, I don't know. Cycling people know this one.
I don't necessarily.
Well, yeah, it's a good one. But I was like riding for State Bicycle Company. This is not. I will not name the brand that. I'm not gonna try and throw them under the bus. But they were like, we were hooked up by this like wheel company, and I was like doing this race, and Peter Sagan's there, and who's like, you know, I think he's like retired now, but like he's the sickest and like won world championships like 3 times, like won everything. And I'm riding with him, and then I'm like I'm literally talking shit to him the whole time, which is super fun. And then I drop my chain up a hill, and I'm like catching back on in this race, and I'm by myself, and I pass him, pass his teammate Daniel Loss, and I go through a creek crossing, and I hit a rock and completely shatter my wheel, like in half, like both sides, like didn't make sense. And I was just, because you crack one side and you think, oh, it will keep rolling, but it actually cracked on both sides. So I'm like,
and
it's carbon. It's like, I don't know how this happened. And I get off the bike, and then Peter and his teammates stop, and I have my wheel off, and then they start filming. And I'm not thinking, because I am I'm like 450 watts, like trying to do my hardest to get back to this group. And it was like, because it was like the front 13, I'm like, that's it. And I'm trying to bridge back on after dropping my chain. And I'm sitting there, and he's like filming, and he's laughing. His teammate's taking a piss. And like their logo on the wheel is right there. And I'm literally collapsing it like this in the most like comical way. He posted straight to Instagram. And it is millions of views. And like shared like that like 20,000 times or something like that. Because him being at Unbound was like, it was like everyone was talking about it. Everyone was riding around like trying to take selfies, and I was just trying to attack him, because it's like you never get that chance. Right. You don't want to take a picture with him. You want to, you know, show him what you got. And but yeah, and then that like, and then apparently he is talking about that. My friend's at dinner with him, and that's the only thing he was talking about, was how funny that was. Pretty funny. And then the brand was like, Chris, take it down. I'm like, I don't control Peter Sagan's Instagram. I can't do it. It's out there. But like, should I have exercised like some level of like restraint? But I was like showing him how funny this was. And it was stupid. It was a stupid decision. And you know, it is what it is.
That's a good story.
Yeah, and you know, that's it. That's some of the controversy.
Any others come to mind? I mean, that's a good one. Any others?
I'm trying to think. No, that's probably the big. Yeah, we'll come back. Yeah.
Something else. Chaz, when something like this happens, what do you do?
I'll put out that fire.
Oh man.
What's the damage control? I mean, how do you go about that?
So basically, the person who posted it, they don't have a deal with the brand.
Yeah.
So this
is a very famous site. This is Peter Sagan. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
20,000 shares.
I would say I would say, let's just say the brand was, specialized. I'd say, listen, we don't have any control over what went up, but we do have control over the next 6 months. Do you want to make a 6-month deal?
Ooh, monetize it.
And like,
I'm just
riff on the ridiculous.
Yeah, I'd say like we can make a moment of this, and we can say, and like now we do have control. So we've got a story now, and it's that you can let that be the period, or we can have the next sentence.
And have you had circumstances like that one? I mean,
No, that's pretty like specific.
You've made a seemingly like fatal error and turn it around.
Yeah, I have had situations like, I mean, that's like, I wish like those situations actually aren't rare. Again, that's like why I have a job. And then when you do provide a solution to people in that scenario, they remember you. All jokes aside, that's an opportunity to shine.
Right.
I mean, personally, like I was going like 30 miles an hour, and if like in this instance, like how I would spin that, if you saw what I hit, like if you are going 35 miles an hour and you hit like a rock ledge, like this high, like, and I'm 195 pounds going as hard as I can, like, I would take other competitors' wheels and I would make myself do that repeatedly.
Right.
And like say like, what if I did that with an Envy wheel or a Roval wheel?
A really good idea.
Well, that's what I would do. Like, how would I spin it? It's just like nothing would withstand that. It's just like there's no like it's like you could see my Strava, like when I came to a dead stop and just rammed into a like rock ledge, and it's like, would other wheels survive? No wheels survive. So that's what I would do.
Full reenactment.
Yeah, exactly.
I would dig up that rock. I would dig up that rock and do an IRL event where it's where you just put the spray paint the brand's name on the rock, and
there we go.
Get a keg out or something.
Try to take a sword out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
It was a big rock.
Anywho, that was an awesome thing. So Elliott, now again, you have put blood, sweat, and tears into crafting the product. It's so important. And like when I on this topic, I think of Lululemon and like stretching some yoga pants and like seeing through them. What do you have any concerns or fears as far as like your product not performing?
I would say like the underlying thing is extreme ownership. So like if something goes wrong, like you just gotta eat the sandwich, man. Like it is what it is. That's something that I cannot stand. Like when I sniff out in others, and I'm relentless on myself about it.
Has anything happened yet where?
Oh, of course, dude.
Okay.
Yeah. Nothing's bulletproof. Well, I mean, like, dude, I gave Chaz actually a pair of running tights, and one of the seams busted, like on the pocket. And I've worn those tights. I can't tell you how many times. I've had several others wear those tights. It happened. And so I think like, I mean, Chaz, you could let him know, like I came to his house literally like either the next morning or the next day.
I texted Elliott that the zipper, broke, and Elliott came next morning with a replacement pair. So
I had my son with me too.
It was great. Yeah. It made it a family. It was great.
But I mean, like things inevitably are going to go wrong. The quality control is probably like the number one thing in the supply chain to ensure things do go well. And so even the links that I've gone to like be in the factory, shake people's hands, and whoever was smoking the cigs. I think Chris said it earlier, like the compromise piece of it. I can't tell you that's like the number one thing with this is people try to get you to compromise at every step of the way because they're trying to save themselves money, or they're trying not to work as hard, or they're trying to save you money. But that was the number one thing. And the reason why, like I ended up partnering with the people that I partnered with was because they understood what exactly it was I was trying to do. And I think that's what ultimately makes our products look and feel different.
And that might be the opportunity in the market.
Correct. Yeah. Those are all the things that I see wrong with products when I see what they're priced at. I think it's like
for what they're worth.
Exactly. I'm like a data nerd, and like before I even went off to Asia, I literally looked at every single competitor website that I felt was a real competitor, and I looked at their products and I studied exactly like how the seams were, what was used on the pockets, what the materials were, and I documented all of that. So everything you see on our website is strategically priced, whether it's cycling gear or running gear, and they're strategically designed against the other products that exist in the market. And so when you look at our products, it's premium level quality that you would see from the top luxury brands in the space, but upper median tier pricing. So those people that buy those products, they know exactly what I'm doing.
And just as an example, I've been riding long enough for more than 10 years. I've seen product innovation. And what Elliott is referring to is basically getting a batch of like stuff that other small brands cannot get access to.
Correct.
And like, you got to know a guy in China, like literally to be able to do this.
Yeah.
So I thought that aspect of the story and the industry is really interesting. Like the innovation has happened so quickly that like not everyone can get that.
The new.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. It's
No.
not a technical term.
I have a great example of this, which is like kind of similar, but it was like, this is like with Rafa like 10 years ago, and they're kind of like still like small, but I was like riding Alpe d'Huez. Like it was I wasn't racing the Tour, obviously, but it was like the Tour finish, and they had like a little pop up there, and the guy saw that I had their bibs on, and he stopped me, and he's just like, oh, those are like, they were sun faded, like from the UV, which shouldn't have happened. He just exchanged them to me on the spot. Like, I was like, oh, that's sick. It was like immediately like, oh, that shouldn't be that way. Didn't ask me for proof of purchase. I bought them used off eBay. I was poor. And they just got a new pair of bibs. And I was like, this is sick.
And that buys you brand equity for
exactly. I was hyped. Yeah, Rafa fanboy, you know, for those like first few years, it was great. But
back in the day, you used to send in your ripped kit, and they'd sew it up and send it back.
Yeah, it was great. And
I don't think they do it.
And also, like nowadays too, it's like there's a whole influencer like market of people who like try to show how bad stuff is. Like, I don't know if anyone follows a great YouTuber. It's like Hambini. It's like the great Hambini. He like cuts carbon frames in half. He's like, look at all these voids. Look at all these imperfections. And it's like, you're paying $5,000 for this. And there's another one. I used to work in like the fashion world. And they'll be like, why is this $1,000 pair of sweatpants $1,000? He just like pulls on the pocket. It rips immediately. And he's just like, you can't compromise because someone is going to show like the world that you're a fool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, 2 million views. And he's like, oh, they said this tag is leather. And he puts it in a solution. And it's like, oh, no, it's actually PVC. So it's just like they got caught in a fucking lie.
Right.
And it's just like, I don't know. Someone's going to try and like, you know,
there's a whole
find out.
Creator industry.
There's a creator industry around these people that like are trying to, you know, poke holes in people.
Right.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, can't keep caught sleeping.
So another good transition. Next segment is measuring success, which we touched on a little bit before. And we'll start with Chris. You are a self-professed data guy.
Yes, it's my job actually. My real
data?
Yeah.
I imagine when you're working with a brand, you probably take some pride in delivering XYZ value. Can't put words in your mouth, but how do you go about measuring success on your brand partnerships?
I mean, these days everything is very much like data driven. I mean, I work for Tableau. It's like a data analytics you know, software. I've been doing that for like 10 years. And so one thing I do differently than I think like some influencers, especially like at my level, because like, you know, and again, I just said it, I'm an influencer, which I hate, but I can take like, you know, back end data of like, okay, here are all the Instagram posts I've created. Like if you use a hashtag, like I can basically deliver them a dashboard of like, here is what, like every time I've like used this app mention, use a hashtag, it's like, here is like directly like how many views and like,
dude, that's badass.
No, and I do it for bike races now as part of like a national promoter.
That's a thing that you built personally? Or?
Yeah. It's just like, I'm like, there's a software called Meteor, which like you can track basically all of like your Instagram stuff. And I do it for like bike races now because like that's more of what I care about. It's like less about me and more like, how do I make this event successful? Because I care about road racing. So that way, like I can give them something that's like relatively tangible. It's like they can see like what sort of impact, because like measuring ROI and all these sort of things is like very difficult. And the only way to do that is like, I mean, if your measurement of success is things like likes, comments, you know, impressions, etc., it's like, you know, you got to have some way to record that sort of stuff.
And so how frequently are they holding you to product?
Not very.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll say that. It's like I give it to them like at the end of the year. It's like an annual sort of thing. Same for like
they're
bikers.
Not expecting you to you know, have a smart URL and sell product. Or...
No, not necessarily. I mean, they've been asked to do that, but like I don't necessarily. That's more on their end. I don't have control over that sort of thing. But it's like more like, you know, they're interested in Instagram content, YouTube, that sort of thing. And so like that's what I can give them. Yeah. And it's like if they're like, oh, we would like to see X, Y, Z impressions, whatever. It's like, at least I can have some sort of like accountability
Yeah.
towards something like that. Because I'm like, here's a Tableau dashboard. It's on Tableau Public. Go check it out.
They're like, hey, can we like get a copy of this? And like,
Yeah. Oh, I mean, like, well, half the time it's amazing
Ripping the
how
template.
bad data strategy is for a lot of these people. So it's like, I'm like, oh, I did this in 10 minutes, but what are you gonna do?
So Chad, what are you seeing from that side?
Yeah. If the brand's direct to consumer, then measurement is highly scrutinized, and they want to know, the customer acquisition, and they are sure to measure it.
Sales driven.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And how much of your sort of roster is dabbling in?
All my clients do that, and then some of my clients also do brand awareness campaigns. Customer acquisition, if you're good at converting, then it's the gift that keeps giving.
Yeah.
Because brands.
Do you find that some of your talent like just have that?
Yes, absolutely.
Skill, that knack?
Yeah. I mean, it's like,
what can you attribute that to? What do you?
I would say really good rapport with the audience, ability to enumerate the talking points or creative brief kind of naturally and authentically.
Yeah.
Because when some people like talk about discounts or software or hardware or whatever, like the new sneaker, they just sound stilted and not smooth. And like they sound like they're reading, whether or not they sound like they're reading like a teleprompter. And some people are just mellifluous and fluid.
I also imagine like higher engagement has to have some correlation, right? As opposed to
absolutely
subscribers if there are less subscribers, but
like when you issue the call to action, do people click on the link? That's like to summarize it. Some people are really good at that.
And then speaking about just kind of like strict engagement, is that a big part of your work as well?
My client's purview is like, how am I going to make this interesting?
Right. All right. And then Elliott, on to you. So you are just getting started here and you're selling out of your house, but you also have an online store. How are you going about driving marketing and conversion?
Everything's measured. So statistical data, probably not something you want to lean on right now, given it's only been 45 days. But
you got some
we got some outliers.
P-value's low.
Yeah. But yeah, I think like just like being true to kind of like where I'm at, to be honest. Like one of the things I kind of caught on quickly, which is like, it feels good, but I think it can also be slightly counterproductive, is because I come from the film background, I've been able to put out a few things that are like pretty high quality, and they're getting some eyeballs, but then I quickly realized people are like, wait, it's just you. And so I'm like, oh yeah, like, and I kind of have to like peel the curtain back a little bit. So I think
to help people identify with a smaller brand that they'd want to be part of at an early stage.
I think so. Like, honestly, just allow me a little bit of grace, to be honest, man. Like, because I think some of the stuff put out, it might imply that there's a lot of different people working on it simultaneously, but it's just from being kind of like resourceful. And then, I mean, for me, this project really is kind of like the last 15 years coming together with film background, working in sales, and then I guess like being like kind of like engineering minded in a way. But yeah, I think honestly, just kind of letting it ride, letting it be what it is.
Yeah.
One of the big things, now that everything is live on the store, we're going to be focusing on is just like communications for the next 3 to 4 months and really kind of ramping that up. So we're going to be doing a kind of like a series on the product. And so I'm going to be leaning pretty hard on communicating the things that I value about the products and why they are the way they are, so people can better understand, like, who might not be like as in tune with like what they're buying. Right. So just helping to kind of like sell against what else is out there so they can appreciate the product and obviously like respect the price point at that. Really kind of honing in on that. And then with that, like we have a lot of really cool stuff like shoot wise. Think about like in Austin, I want to create like, I call them magnets in town. It's like at the end of the day, if cycling is not cool, no one's going to want to do it.
Yeah.
So like we got to do more cool stuff and like just have fun, to be honest. So
Tolley and I talked about that a little bit, and when I interviewed you year or so ago.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, you guys should really like follow these two right here, because Elliott's got a lot up his sleeve that you haven't even played those cards yet. And like we all know this guy.
Yeah. The internet.
So we got to start to wrap up soon. There's going to be live music in the back. I wanted to mention that. I forgot. Would love for everyone to hang out, and we got some entrepreneur types in the area. Like I will introduce everyone, and
Hope so.
but I did have a couple more questions.
Yeah.
I thought a really interesting one, again, Steve had set up for you, Tolley, is after being an influencer for how long? How long have you worked with brands at this point?
Probably when honestly, some of the first stuff was when I got into Red Hook and like started that stuff. So like 10 years. It was just funny.
Would you do anything different?
Honestly, I don't know. I'm pretty happy with like what I do. I think that this would be a different question if I did not find a job. Like if I was still working at a bike shop at the time when I was like, I moved here and then it's like, oh, I found like a career like that. I went to school and everything like that. So I was like, oh, I'll focus on that. If I didn't,
you need creative independence.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have leaned way harder into YouTube stuff earlier. I feel like that would have been a big one that I would have like done differently and done more like long form sort of stuff like way back when. Because I feel like people that did that like are like pretty successful. And like honestly, I like all these streaming subscriptions I need to cancel because I just watch YouTube. And it's like, it's like the most random stuff. But it's like woodworking. I don't even woodwork, but it's like, it's like, it's just like weird stuff. Like, I mean, like I love like that is what like I consume. Or like Whistling Diesel is like a car guy. It's like he's insane, but it's just like I don't like. And honestly, he's like one of the people who I like admire. I'm like he is unfiltered raw and like millions of dollars doing this stuff as opposed to like Mr. Beast. Who's like very like
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I would have like probably leaned harder into that.
That's a great answer.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, do you foresee yourself doing what you do for the future, for the foreseeable future?
Honestly, I think I've like stifled my own career with influencing stuff mainly because like the driveway and a real job, I'm like something has to go, and like my own like personality, like that sort of stuff.
Talk about that.
I'm just like you only have so much time, and I'm like about to get married too, so I'm like, oh, it's like I'm gonna put my time towards like that sort of stuff. Yeah, no, it's like it makes way more sense. But I do want to do more because I think now it's like I have a very unique perspective, which might actually help me with like, I am only thinking about like driveway sponsorships and things like that. I'm like, how can I grow cycling? How can I make like cool events? And most promoters are very old. They're like from the Lance Armstrong era. And I'm like, oh, it's like, if I can sort of like, this is the niche. Like there's 3 young promoters. We all came from the Red Hook age of cycling and all of their events are sick. Or all like, I'm not going to call my own stuff sick, but it's like, there's like these guys doing Zurich crit in, what do you call it? Like,
Rad Race.
Yeah.
Like basically good branding.
But they all, good branding. And they all came from like Red Hook stuff. I'm like, oh, it's like, there's like, that is sort of like the niche. And then like, I could sort of apply like, like my perspective and things and like influencer stuff to attracting brands to Driveway. And that's what I did with the bike rack company, Saris. I'm like, yo, it's like if you fuck with me, you fuck with Driveway, and it's like you can sponsor this, and like that's what I'm gonna do. So and they did, it's like it's a package deal, sort of thing. So I don't know, that's sort of what I don't know. That's like the niche because I'm like, what supports the community here? And it's like I need sponsorship to do it. So
yeah. And by the way, everyone support Driveway. I was there with my son on Thursday night. It's a good time. If you haven't been over there, check it out. Last question is going to be for Elliott. Do you have any questions for these guys about how to go about your first, influencer or creator campaigns? Putting you on the spot a little bit.
Yeah. I'd say we'll start with you, Chaz. What would be like? I mean, you kind of know about the business, but like I'm curious about like structuring the deal.
I think one of the things that it works in your favor is you've got a great product, and it's not just you got a great product that people who are true athletes and play and use it for the sports that it services will respond to. And so my piece of advice, if you're short on capital and long on product, which is where most entrepreneurs are at the outset of their journey, then you got to make it worth their while and say, listen, like I know you need a kit, you need running shorts, you need like let me be your guy.
Yeah.
And please support me. And then once the money starts rolling in, we'll work together. And
so there's not a lot of expectation about equity and stuff like that. Like,
I mean, like at this step where Elliott is, his company's been alive for 45 days.
Yeah.
So that's where, even though it's my job to structure deals and make sure my client gets paid, that's why I don't participate in this at this juncture typically. But like just as a entrepreneur.
That's interesting. So you're not cutting a lot of like really early stage brand deals on behalf of your account.
No. And but I would say like, if you've got, everybody loves a good story, as I said at the beginning of this, and if people believe in you and then there's upside, then sometimes it's worth it.
Cool. Appreciate it.
I feel like you guys need to wrap. You know, you can take it outside after the show. There's a lot you guys have to discuss about building driveway.
Yes.
You know, but I think we can do some audience Q&A actually.
Hey.
We don't have that much time, but are there any questions in the audience?
You have your own company, you do some brand representation, but you also manage a career. And I'm wondering about, this is a two-part question. One, how do you balance, or do you balance, is there any differentiation between you showing up for your career at Tableau and all the things that you do outside of that?
I guess so I show up differently for my work because of like all the other stuff I've taken on, or like, I guess I'm a little confused.
Yeah, like, are you is there any difference in like you at Tableau and you outside doing everything else?
Oh, 100%. I'm a very different person when I'm like, you know, on Zoom. And like, and there's like a little bit of me that comes through, which honestly, the people I work with like enjoy. Like I tell things like I'm very like straightforward with people. And I feel like in a world of like tech sales, there's a lot of like, you know, they're like, oh yeah, it's like this product's great. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's half built. And I'll tell them that. And it's like, because like, you know, the relationship with those people matters. And if they get sold something that like does not work, like they're going to be unhappy and it's a fire I have to put out later. So it's like, and the salespeople I work with are like appreciative of that because, you know, it's like real. So there's like, you know, it's like, will I curse and be crazy on calls? No, but like, will I still be like pretty direct? Yes, I think. So yeah, that's, I guess. And yeah, and like the real world I kind of do. I'm just me.
So your authenticity is the same in both.
Yeah, I guess it does shine through. I mean, my profile picture is me winning a bike race too, like in full spandex. Like I'm not changing that to a headshot. Like I have those, but I'm not going to use it. It's like, this is better. And it's like, yeah. And it's never put me in a spot where it's like, it's been bad. Like no one's ever said like, why Jake change that? And if they did, I would say no. It's like, fire me.
I would say probably the sales rep. Are you an SE?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I could kind of tell.
Yeah.
As a sales rep, that's like perfect icebreaker, dude. Like if somebody, especially like on the engineering side, like you just gotta let them like do exactly what like they're good at and like stay out of the way.
Yeah.
And like don't try to answer questions you don't know the answer to, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, like the more like stuff like that, I'm like, oh dude, this call's gonna go great. Like with whomever they need to connect with on the line side. Like if there's a photo that is like more personalized, it's like higher chance of closing the deal.
Yeah.
Well, I think especially with this group, we're trying to build a networking group of cyclists, and when you can wear that on your sleeve, it's crazy. Like I talk about hill climbers, and like random people will be like, "Oh, I'm a cyclist," or "My dad's a cyclist," or something. Like it's unique enough that like people know that one cyclist, and it's helped open up doors.
Oh yeah, I mean one of the guys I was talking with is like the head of Cerner, like which is a huge like medical records company. But he saw my profile picture, and then we hung out at a bike race, and I was just like, yeah, and he's like he's one of the biggest like Tableau embedded customers. It's like, you know, it's sick, and he just saw it through a profile picture. Otherwise, it would have never came up. So,
a question for Elliott.
Yeah,
the past couple of years, cycling is, I mean, seemingly taken off, especially in Austin, and there are now communities and lots of brand deals. There's lots of brands trying to like put a footprint in here.
Yeah.
I'm like curious about your take on where you fit into that piece of puzzle, you know, given that there is a large concentration of like big brands pouring into the space, and how you can differentiate yourself from some of those, you know, larger players and stand out.
So I think about that a lot. I mean, the first thing I'll lead with is I'm a firm believer everybody can win. So this is not like a zero-sum situation. I'm highly competitive, just like everyone else is, but my mindset is not in a world where like there's someone's just going to get the lion's share, and it's like, how can you keep the lion's share all the time? So when I kind of referenced earlier about the magnets in town, I don't have any interest in like recreating what's already there, because that just means something is going to, like, I'm siphoning effectively if I win. Right. So like, what do I see that is potentially missing? That way I can make Austin specifically like even cooler. Because we've got more people, more and more like that want to come and move here, especially the younger demographic. And I grew up in Dallas. And even when I came here, I was like astonished. I was a college athlete, and I like obviously got way out of shape, like mid-20s, worked like at the desk, and like really just did not take care of myself. And when I came to Austin, it's like seeing like somebody who's in their 60s just blow by you on the trail is like inspiring, but also like like a kick in the nuts. Like I was like, dude, I gotta get my shit together. So But yeah, I think like just coming back to the question, like identifying things that I feel like are opportunities, or how can I like make it cooler to want to be here in the city. And that's it could be like things related to video, it could be related to events, but we definitely don't have an interest in like trying to make something just to compete against whatever's happening, right? So
Great answer. All right, guys, we got some trivia questions, and then we're gonna wrap. Do you know what we have to give out?
We got all kinds of stuff. So literally, majority of it is going to be bottles or socks, but there's lots of different colors, lots of different socks. And then I've got one question at the end for somebody, and there's a jersey up for grabs.
All right.
So
And we're gonna do hand raising. That's how, and I will call on you. Currently with Paris-Nice, who is leading the points classification?
I know.
Real softball.
All right, Kuno. No. If it's not Tim Lear, who is it?
Mateo.
No,
He's leading GC. So I don't know anymore.
he just took it over. Yes. So Steven wins.
Yay!
All right, Mads Pedersen. And here's one we should be able to get. First Monument is next weekend. Which is it? Monument.
Hero. No. No.
Kundo, come on. Who's got it? Man, I gotta make these easier.
Yes,
Yeah,
you do.
pop culture.
It is.
Woo!
It is. We got Alex.
ChatGPT.
Milan was the answer. Do you want to ask yours or?
Yeah. All right. So I haven't actually confirmed with you, but so Chaz's company was Bottle Rocket, who directed that movie. And if you want bonus points, who helped him bring that film together?
Wes Anderson.
All right. And then do you know who helped him?
The
Who co-wrote it?
blonde actor.
Oh, okay. So also,
Name Luke Wilson, Tim Owen.
Owen.
Owen
Yeah.
Wilson.
both brothers are in there. Yeah. But also, I think part of what made that movie great was the Coen brothers.
Yeah.
Nice.
So you can kind of tell, like, yeah.
All right, well, that's a wrap, everyone. Thank you so much.